Once again, it feels like Florida State is getting the rough end of the stick. And I know plenty of you have already heard, so comment down below your thoughts and opinions on this punishment that the NCAA is bringing down on Florida State. And if you don't know what has happened to Florida State, they're basically being punished for violating NIL protocols. And in this video, I'm going to detail what exactly happened, but there are some things that are still unknown about this situation. And we're going to talk about that in this video. So let's go ahead and hop right on into it. If you're not subscribed though, make sure that you subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs before April. That's my birthday month, and I would appreciate if you guys could help me out with that. But let's take a look at exactly what the NCAA themselves has said about this situation. A Florida State assistant football coach violated NCAA rules when he facilitated an impermissible recruiting contact between a transfer prospect and a booster. According to an agreement released by the Division I Committee on Infractions, during that contact, the booster encouraged the prospect to enroll at Florida State and offered a name, image, and likeness deal as a recruiting inducement. The assistant coach then violated ethical conduct rules when he provided false or misleading information about his involvement in the arranged meeting. And so it seems to me, just reading this statement, that the coach basically lied about his involvements in this situation, and the booster talked to the player, I don't know when. And I think that's the biggest thing about this situation. If the recruiter, or the booster, talked to the player before they entered the transfer portal, then I think we're having an entirely different conversation. But if we're simply talking about the concept of boosters talking to players and trying to persuade them to come to their school with NIL money, every school in the country is doing that. It's no different from anybody else, but it seems like the NCAA is doing their best to make an example out of Florida State here. But let's continue with more about this situation. The school assistant coach and enforcement staff agreed that the violation occurred after a prospective transfer student athlete entered the NCAA transfer portal and communicated with the assistant coach to arrange an official visit to Florida State. During that visit, the assistant coach transported the prospect and his parents to and from an off-campus meeting with a booster, who at the time was the chief executive officer of an NIL collective that also was a booster. The prospect and his parents stated that the assistant coach informed them that they would be meeting with the booster. The coach did not stay for the meeting. So I don't know the rules. Does the coach have to be present for this meeting? I'm not exactly sure how that works, but at the end of the day, like I have previously stated, the only issue I have with people getting offered NIL deals is if you try to do that before that player is in the portal. If you're trying to persuade kids already on an active roster to come in your school while they're in school, then that's my issue. But it doesn't seem like, at least based off this, that Florida State did that. He was in the portal, whoever it is, and they tried to offer him some money. Like I said, each and every single school is doing this. But let's continue. During the meeting, the booster encouraged the prospect to enroll at Florida State and offered him an NIL opportunity with the collective worth approximately $15K per month, which is a lot of cash, all right, during his first year at the school. After the meeting, the booster contacted the prospect and the prospect's mother via text message or via call, whatever. Shortly thereafter, the prospect withdrew his name from the transfer portal and remained at his previous school. The prospect did not enter into an agreement with the booster or receive any related compensation. Seems like he just simply was not interested, and these next few paragraphs are going to summarize some things that you may be thinking. All right, and so let's continue. The school and enforcement staff agreed that the meeting with the booster violated several recruiting rules. Specifically, the meeting constituted an impermissible recruiting contact because the boosters are not authorized recruiters and generally cannot have in-person off-campus contact with prospects. The booster also violated recruiting rules when he initiated telephonic communication with the prospect and his mother. Additionally, the booster's proposed NIL opportunity constituted an impermissible recruiting inducement. So basically what the NCAA is saying is, don't let your boosters hang out with these student athletes, which I can understand that. You don't want them to simply be running into whoever because they can be making some shady business practices, right? But at the end of the day, like I said, I don't think this is different from anybody else. The issue, or I would say the problem that happened with Florida State is that the assistant coach did not stay for the meeting, and that seems to be where, and it seems to me, at least in my opinion, that the assistant coach here dropped the ball. Now, Do I think that the punishment is kind of like putting an eye on Florida State? And when I say that, I'm saying they simply are making an example out of Florida State. Yeah, I think that's true. I don't necessarily think this is a huge deal because I feel like other teams or the programs are doing the same thing, but it seems like the NCAA is wanting to make a statement here. And without reading the rest of this, basically the investigation showed that the assistant coach at one point in time, at least based off their investigation, did not truthfully explain his involvement in this situation, but then it seems like he came back and then explained his involvement in the situation, and so that may have added to the punishment here. And let's just look at a few of these. 2 years of probation, and I don't know exactly what that is going to entail, and a 2-year show cause order for the assistant coach, including a suspension from the next 3 regular season games, a 2-week restriction on recruiting communication, and required attendance at a NCAA regional rule seminar attendance. Okay, and now I'll put the rest of these up for you guys to see. I think those are probably the 2 biggest ones. You can read through those. No need to just simply continue to read. If you want to read this again for yourself, the link to this will be down below in the description. But what do I think about this after reading all of that information? NCAA is simply making an example out of Florida State. I have said that, and that's what I believe before reading the NCAA post about this. I have read different articles on this, but this is my first time actually reading the NCAA website version of this. I don't necessarily, it was up before I went to bed last night. Look, I gotta work. It is what it is. I have to go to sleep, and I'm reading this fresh in the morning. So at the end of the day, do I have a problem with people trying to recruit these kids and maybe offering them some money? No. But at the same time, I do understand not allowing boosters or anybody else who could potentially be shady to have involvement with these kids. So I do understand that as well. And at the same time, though, other schools are doing this as well. And like I said, I do understand not allowing the kids to simply be with whoever, whenever, because some shady business practices could potentially pop up. And you don't want to leave a kid out to dry like that. At the same time, is the NCAA simply making an example out of Florida State? Yeah, I believe that as well, because it's extremely tough right now, and I'm talking about tough, to regulate this NIL era. It is hard, all right? It is hard. And I don't know, I just have a funny feeling about this. It just feels like NCAA is picking on Florida State. So I don't know, guys. At the end of the day, and this is probably my summary as I'm thinking about it while making this video, my opinion may change later, but is this not what everybody is doing? They are definitely not the first to do this. I don't know. Something at some point in time probably had to be said, and I think a big part of this, and I could be wrong, is the fact that there's a paper trail. You texting the kid, and so maybe that is why this is happening. And so you can say this and say that, but without proof, then what else is there to do? But in this case, you have proof, like, hey, this big booster is texting me. The boosters aren't supposed to be in contact with the kids. You know what I'm saying? And other schools are doing this, but do they have the text message proof? Maybe they do. And so then again, the question is, why Florida State? Florida State fans, let me know what you think about that, because that's kind of where I am. Why Florida State? Why does it seem like the NCAA is just simply picking on Florida State and wanting to put the hammer down on them on an issue that I think a lot of different colleges are going through? So comment down below, let me know what you think about that, and I'll see you in the next video.